Let me introduce you to Claudia. This is Claudia Gwinnutt, and continuing a little bit of the South African theme, although born in Cape Town and having lived in Johannesburg, proud birth as a South African, proudly now British, working and living in London. But before I bring Claudia up to the stage, I know she would want to and ask you to welcome a young boy that she mentors, who's 8 years old in North London, who's watching online right now. Would you just give him a huge cheer of and a wave and say, come on, watch her and get behind her. That young 8-year-old boy with his mother is watching in North London now, because Claudia every weekend spends time mentoring him and supporting him and helping him develop his education. In fact, at the age of 15, Claudia decided that she would get involved in a school-based program to bring forward issues like global warming and world trade and poverty in a school environment in which those things were not just being ignored, they weren't even being discussed or talked about in a mature way. So although she's still, as you will see in a moment, significantly young, she's significantly matured in her thinking at 22 years of age, and working for Barclays Bank, she's absolutely convinced that business has a positive role to play in changing society. So bring Claudia Gwinnutt up and let's welcome her.
Thank you, Michael, for such a lovely introduction. One of the main things that stood out to me last year at One Young World was this overwhelming sense of distrust in global businesses. Even more concerning was that many of us had actually given up hope in the potential for big business to do good. That very sentiment, though, changed the course of my last year. But it was also through meeting and listening to some of the most amazing, inspirational, and creative young people of my generation at One Young World that meant that when I returned to London to start my graduate program at Barclays, I simply could not let this year go by without doing something. So I have to thank you for that. So what did I do? Well, it wasn't just myself. 5 other colleagues and I, who I believe are here today as well, decided to just simply seize the opportunity. We were all new to this huge organization, knew very little how anything worked, or even had anyone who we thought could help us. But our aim was quite simple. It was to prove to Barclays and to prove to all of you that trust can be rebuilt, it will be rebuilt, and that the potential of global businesses to leverage their size and business models must not be lost. But more crucially than that, One Young World, we must not let it be lost. Because if I learned anything from last year's conference, it is that it is this generation, more than any other generation, that understands the turning point we're at in our history, where we have the possibility of achieving social goals through the rise of not for profit, but more than profit. This change is here to stay, and I want global businesses to play their part in that. And whilst we cannot be that second leg that Mohammed Yunus spoke of the other day, I do truly believe that we can definitely help to build it. So how did we start to put those beliefs into actions? Well, we wanted to develop a unique proposition internally that would work to overcome one of the greatest challenges we face as young people. In fact, it knows no boundaries. With 75 million young people unemployed around the world, to me, this is a global crisis, and if ignored, it will have a seismic social and economic effect on future generations. Realizing the untapped potential of young people is crucial for the countries that I live in, with aging populations in which the next generation will bear an even larger share of the social costs. But it is equally critical for countries with young populations, like the country I was born in, South Africa, where a lack of opportunity can feed social unrest. And for Barclays, no matter how generous our philanthropic activity can be, nothing can substitute for the impact of our business, and in fact all global businesses, doing business in the right way, and in particular, doing business the right way for young people. There's been so much talk at this conference on how to do something and how to put all of your beliefs and passions into action. Well, I can honestly say that after having done this myself, it is truly just down to a lot of hard work and perseverance, and never actually giving up. So at new employees at Barclays, we just learnt how things work. We grew our network and we challenged old ideas, or we just found cleverer and smarter ways around them. And after 9 long months, we finally got somewhere, and we developed an initiative called Launchpad, which simply uses our existing business know-how, but for a greater good. That greater good is giving young people the opportunity, young people just like yourselves, access to a diverse set of tools and resources to help them run social enterprises. We will stand as an advocate for all those businesses whose ideas spark new trends, create new jobs, and create social impact. They will be run by young people with energy, vision, and passion, and as they will be laying the foundations of this future economy. We will be working to ensure that in the years to come, we do not see unemployment in youth increasing at the rate that we are currently all witnessing. But more importantly, this will also ensure that these businesses and these young people do not fall under our corporate responsibility agenda, but our business agenda. There are many reasons for this. Firstly, I saw the enormous potential that social enterprises and businesses were having here in the One Young World network, but also because the increase in the social enterprise trend can be observed in countries with different levels of economic development, welfare, and legal systems. Last year in the UK, for example, 50% growth was predicted in social enterprises compared to 41% in SMEs. And in Europe, over 11 million people are paid through social enterprises. This trend is just far more than a series of empty words, because it is showing us that when business is pursued the right way, everybody wins. But young people especially can benefit from enterprises that build their skills and confidence, create and keep wealth in our most deprived communities, provide role models, reward hard work, and give young people a voice and stake in what they do. So last year, Bob Geldof said that what his generation failed to understand was the collective opportunity this generation saw in creating a movement. We have started quite small, but I ask all of you to return to your communities, your companies, and your businesses, and look at your products, look at the distribution channels and the business models, and find ways so that they can be better leveraged. Let's showcase and collaborate through the network of One Young World how young people will find original and sustainable solutions to the problems we all face together. I also believe that we should all be able to demonstrate entrepreneurial activity in any business or organization that we work for, and we should all be campaigning to ensure that our employers allow this. I believe it is this that will ensure that businesses do not lose sight or become complacent, and it will be a far more effective catalyst for change than any amount of regulation or legislation. And this movement, though, may seem slightly less heroic or romantic than tearing down multinational corporations or resisting globalization and fighting global institutions. But we instead should call for all corporations to prove a responsibility to each other and not just their bottom line. This is because this approach is more likely to work. Thank you very much.